For over a century, internal combustion ruled the road. Then came the lithium revolution. Governments, investors, and automakers rallied behind electric vehicles, EVs, with religious fervour. The battery electric movement promised a cleaner, quieter, and simpler future. But by the mid-2020s, the cracks began to show. Lithium shortages, recycling nightmares, fire risks, and the cold, hard truth. Battery EVs were not a silver bullet. Enter hydrogen, the most abundant element in the universe, and ironically, the least understood in the public transport conversation. It doesn't just store energy, it is energy. And Toyota, Japan's automotive titan, believes it's the missing piece of the carbon-free puzzle. But to understand why Toyota is betting so big on hydrogen, especially hydrogen combustion, we need to look beyond tailpipe emissions and into the physics, politics, and psychology of transportation. Battery electric vehicles rely on heavy lithium-ion packs. They're clean at the tailpipe but dirty at the mine. They take hours to recharge, strain fragile electrical grids, and lose efficiency in extreme cold. For many global markets, rural Australia, sub-Saharan Africa, and vast swathes of the American Midwest, they're simply not practical. Hydrogen, on the other hand, offers the high energy density of petrol, the zero carbon promise of renewables, and a fueling experience similar to what drivers already know: pump and go. It fills in minutes, not hours. It thrives in cold. And when derived from renewable sources, so-called green hydrogen, it leaves behind nothing but water. But hydrogen fuel cells, the darling tech of the early 2000s, proved expensive and finicky. Toyota was one of the only OEMs that stuck with them, launching the Mirai in 2014. The reception? Polite at best. But beneath the surface, Toyota was working on something far more radical, a way to burn hydrogen like petrol, to keep the heart of the combustion engine alive, but without the emissions. This wasn't about nostalgia, it was about physics. It was about infrastructure, it was about cultural identity, and it might just be the biggest disruptive play in transportation since Henry Ford put the world on wheels. The story begins in 1992, when Toyota quietly launched a research group dedicated to hydrogen propulsion. This was before the Prius, before Tesla, before climate change became a global buzzword. By 2002, Toyota had developed its first FCEV fuel cell electric vehicle prototype, using compressed hydrogen to generate electricity on board. These early systems were heavy, inefficient, and eye-wateringly expensive, but they worked. And more importantly, they aligned with Toyota's long-term environmental vision, the Toyota Environmental Challenge 2050, which aimed for near zero carbon output across the brand. In 2014, Toyota released the Mirai, the world's first mass-produced hydrogen fuel cell sedan. It was a technological marvel. A 5-minute refuel gave you over 500 kilometers of range. The only emission? Water vapor. But there were problems. Infrastructure was scarce. Hydrogen fuel was costly. And the EV market, led by Tesla's software-heavy seduction, was booming. Critics said the Mirai was a vanity project. Toyota disagreed. Instead of folding, the company doubled down. And quietly, in test labs and on racetracks, a new idea began to take shape. What if we don't convert hydrogen into electricity at all? What if we just burn it? Hydrogen combustion, not to be confused with fuel cells, is a throwback and a leap forward all at once. It's combustion in the classic sense: pistons, explosions, exhaust. But instead of fossil fuels, it uses compressed hydrogen gas. No carbon, no CO2, just a satisfying roar and a trail of steam. Toyota debuted its first hydrogen combustion prototype in 2021, a specially modified Corolla powered by a 1.6-litre 3-cylinder engine. The same block used in the GR Yaris hot hatch, but reworked to handle hydrogen's unique properties. And then they did something unexpected. They raced it. Toyota entered the hydrogen-powered Corolla into the Super Taikyu series, an endurance race in Japan known for brutal track conditions. Why? Because if you want to prove a new technology, there's no better lab than motorsport. The demands of racing, power, heat, durability, quick refueling, mirror the very challenges hydrogen combustion needs to overcome in road cars. The car wasn't perfect. Refueling was slow, the hydrogen tanks were bulky, and early versions made just 125 kilowatts. Modest by performance standards. But the engine worked. It sounded like a petrol car. It drove like one. And most importantly, it survived. Over subsequent races, Toyota engineers improved everything. Fuel injection timing, intake flow, combustion chamber design, tank pressurization, power jumped by 24%, torque rose 33%. Refueling time dropped from 5 minutes to just 90 seconds using new high-flow connectors. This wasn't just racing. It was rapid prototyping on public display. In 2023, Toyota revealed a hydrogen-powered high-ace van with a hydrogen combustion engine. Not a fuel cell, an actual 6-cylinder hydrogen-burning engine. The pilot program was launched in Australia, partnering with construction firm CPB Contractors, part of CIMIC Group. Why Australia? Because it's a hydrogen-friendly landscape. Wide open spaces, long distances, strong sunshine for electrolysis-based hydrogen production, and crucially, a federal government investing billions into hydrogen infrastructure. It was also a way to test hydrogen tech in real-world conditions, from the brutal heat of Western Australia to the stop-start city cycles of Melbourne. The high-ace pilot was more than a trial. It was Toyota putting a stake in the ground. Hydrogen combustion isn't just a laboratory experiment. It's a practical, scalable solution, especially for commercial fleets and heavy-duty applications. Burning hydrogen in an internal combustion engine, ICE, sounds deceptively simple. Just replace petrol with hydrogen, right? Wrong. Hydrogen combustion is both an engineering nightmare and a mechanical dream. It requires entirely rethinking engine dynamics, from air-fuel mixtures to material tolerances, ignition timing, and even flame behavior. But if you can make it work, the rewards are huge. Near-zero carbon emissions, fast refueling, and the preservation of mechanical driving feel. At the heart of this revolution is chemistry. Hydrogen is not a hydrocarbon. It contains no carbon atoms, which means when burned with oxygen, the only byproduct is water vapor. No carbon monoxide, no unburnt hydrocarbons, no CO2. But hydrogen isn't petrol. It's about 14 times lighter than air. It has a very low ignition energy and burns nearly 8 times faster than gasoline. These traits make it volatile and difficult to control. In a traditional engine, if introduced improperly, hydrogen can ignite prematurely, backfire, or even cause detonation before the piston reaches top dead center, a serious risk to engine components. Toyota's challenge was to tame this beast without reinventing the engine from scratch. Toyota engineers started with the GR Yaris's 1.6-litre turbocharged inline 3. Then they rewrote the rulebook. Fuel injection overhaul. Unlike gasoline, which is injected as a liquid, hydrogen is a high-pressure gas. This meant Toyota had to design direct injection, high-flow injectors that could withstand and deliver hydrogen at up to 700 bar, 10,000 psi, without leaks or misfires. Air management on hydrogen requires 3 times more air for optimal combustion than petrol. Toyota developed high-capacity intake systems and recalibrated throttle bodies to accommodate the increased airflow. Turbocharging had to be rethought too. Early models removed turbos altogether to prevent hydrogen-rich backfires damaging turbines. Flame propagation control. Due to hydrogen's fast burn rate, engineers adjusted spark timing, compression ratios, and valve overlap to control the rate of combustion. New software-controlled engine maps allowed dynamic adaptation depending on throttle load and environmental conditions. Materials engineering hydrogen flames burn hotter and faster, leading to elevated engine temperatures and potential pre-ignition risks. Toyota reinforced cylinder heads, valves, and piston crowns using heat-resistant alloys and ceramic coatings to prevent failure over prolonged operation. NOx emissions management. While hydrogen produces no carbon emissions, high combustion temps can trigger nitrogen oxides, NOx, a regulated pollutant. Toyota deployed EGR, exhaust gas recirculation, systems and lean burn strategies, and is also experimenting with after-treatment catalytic converters specifically tuned for hydrogen, lubrication, and blow-by control. Because hydrogen molecules are so small, they can bypass piston rings and contaminate the crankcase oil. Toyota redesigned the piston ring geometry, introduced low permeability seals, and developed oil formulations to cope with this problem. After years of iteration, the result is a hydrogen engine that sounds and feels like a petrol engine, produces zero CO2 emissions, matches or exceeds the torque characteristics of equivalent internal combustion engines, refuels in under 2 minutes, retains mechanical engagement, a key for car enthusiasts. But Toyota isn't stopping at small hatches. In their Australian hydrogen high-ace van, they installed a 3.5-litre V6, further proving that hydrogen combustion can scale to commercial and utility vehicles. In development labs, engineers are already testing hydrogen-adapted boxer engines, inline 4s and V8 concepts. There are whispers of hydrogen-powered Land Cruisers, Hilux utes, and even performance Lexuses on the drawing board. Hydrogen combustion is no longer theoretical. It's tangible, tunable, and scalable. The closest thing we've seen to clean performance without compromise. The greatest challenge to hydrogen adoption isn't the vehicle, it's the fuel. Even the most advanced hydrogen engine is useless without a reliable supply of high-purity H2 and the infrastructure to store, transport, and deliver it at scale. And herein lies Toyota's real battle. Not just building cars, but building an ecosystem. Hydrogen doesn't exist freely in nature, it must be extracted. There are 3 primary production methods. Grey hydrogen, made from natural gas via steam methane reforming, SMR. Cheap, but emits large amounts of CO2, counterproductive for climate goals. Blue hydrogen, also made from SMR, but coupled with carbon capture and storage, CCS, to reduce emissions. Green hydrogen, produced by splitting water, H2O, into hydrogen and oxygen using electrolysis, powered by renewable electricity, solar, wind, hydro. This is the holy grail, truly clean hydrogen, but currently the most expensive. Toyota has thrown its weight behind green hydrogen. It believes that by scaling up electrolyzer technology and renewable power, green hydrogen costs can rival petrol within a decade. Refueling a hydrogen vehicle is not like pumping unleaded. Hydrogen must be cooled to below minus 40 degrees Celsius during transfer to prevent overheating. Compressed to 700 bar for light vehicles or 350 bar for trucks. Delivered with zero contamination, as even minor impurities damage engines and fuel cells. Toyota and partners have developed Type 4 composite tanks made of carbon fiber and polymer liners to store hydrogen safely on board. These tanks are bulletproof tested, flame resistant, and weigh significantly less than steel equivalents. The fueling stations themselves are engineering marvels. A standard hydrogen station includes high-pressure compressors, pre-cooling units, cascade storage tanks, precision nozzles with safety locks. Each station can cost 1 to 2 million Australian dollars to build, depending on size and throughput. Australia is uniquely positioned to lead in hydrogen logistics. The country has abundant solar and wind resources for electrolysis. Government incentives, including 6.3 billion Australian dollars under the National Hydrogen Strategy. Massive export potential, with plans to ship hydrogen to Japan, South Korea, and Germany. Toyota has partnered with governments and private industry to build a network of hydrogen refueling stations starting in Melbourne, Altona, and Sydney Olympic Park. The goal, to have 20-plus stations operating nationally by 2030, Toyota is working on modular hydrogen supply pods, mobile self-contained units that can be deployed to mining sites, rural areas, or disaster zones. They're also exploring liquid hydrogen transport, where hydrogen is supercooled and shipped in insulated tankers, potentially allowing vast exports from Australia to Japan using the new Suiso Frontier hydrogen carrier ships developed by Kawasaki Heavy Industries. No innovation survives contact with reality unchanged. That's why Toyota doesn't just build engines in labs, it throws them into the world's harshest environments. Whether it's the rigours of endurance racing in Japan or the stop-start abuse of fleet service in Australia, Toyota's hydrogen combustion testing has been relentless. Over the next 2 years, Toyota returned with improved versions. 2022. New high-flow hydrogen injectors and direct injection improved power delivery and reduced misfires. 2023. Refueling connectors were upgraded, cutting down pit stops from 5 minutes to just over 1. 2024. New cylinder coatings and knock sensors allowed longer stints without detonation, proving durability for long-haul applications. By 2024, the hydrogen Corolla was competitive, not just experimental. It was loud, fast, and intoxicating. Unlike silent EVs, the combustion soundtrack and shifting dynamics gave it character. Journalists who rode in it raved about how normal it felt, but with a cleaner conscience. Toyota didn't keep this tech cloistered in racing circles. Every upgrade was reverse engineered into their road vehicle programs: pistons, valve seats, lubrication maps. Even the refueling tech from pit lanes would later inform civilian infrastructure rollouts. Emissions testing showed near zero carbon output. The trial's success laid the foundation for broader adoption. Expansion to mining operations in the Pilbara, trials with refrigerated transport vehicles, proposals for hydrogen-powered Hilux and Land Cruiser variants for rural Australia. Toyota proved that hydrogen combustion wasn't just clean, it was practical. Not a concept, but a contender. The EV revolution is driven as much by politics as by engineering. In the European Union and California, policy strongly favours battery electric vehicles, BEVs. Incentives, mandates, and emissions regulations are tailored to battery cars, often excluding hydrogen entirely. The EU's 2035 combustion ban looms large, targeting all ICE vehicles, even if powered by clean fuels. But Japan, Australia, and parts of Southeast Asia have taken a different approach. These nations recognise their unique geographic challenges, long distances, remote regions, limited grid capacity, and are backing hydrogen as a parallel solution. Japan's Basic Hydrogen Strategy, launched in 2017, commits the country to becoming a hydrogen society by 2050. Billions have been poured into infrastructure, electrolyzers, fuel imports, and R&D. Australia's National Hydrogen Strategy commits over 6.3 billion Australian dollars in funding, targeting both domestic adoption and export to Asian markets. It includes hydrogen refueling corridors, industrial-scale electrolysis hubs, public-private partnerships for vehicle trials. These strategies dovetail perfectly with Toyota's push, making hydrogen not just viable, but desirable. While most automakers jumped headfirst into battery EVs, Toyota remained skeptical. Former CEO Akio Toyoda warned of overhyping batteries, citing environmental damage from lithium mining, grid limitations in developing nations, long charge times and short range for heavy vehicles, lack of recycling infrastructure for battery packs. Instead, Toyota pursued a multi-pathway strategy: hybrids, plug-in hybrids, battery EVs, hydrogen fuel cells, and now hydrogen combustion. This strategy wasn't popular with investors in 2021 to 2022, who accused Toyota of lagging behind Tesla and BYD. But in 2024 to 2025, as lithium prices soared and blackouts increased in over-electrified regions, the tide began to turn. Toyota's restraint started to look like foresight. It doubled down on hydrogen by expanding partnerships with BMW, co-developing hydrogen systems for large vehicles, investing in electrolyzer manufacturing through subsidiaries and Japanese industry groups, lobbying for hydrogen-friendly regulations in Australia, Thailand, and India, launching joint hydrogen ventures in the Middle East, where oil states are transitioning to hydrogen exports. Toyota is also pushing for global emissions policies that measure life cycle CO2, not just tailpipe emissions, a move that would advantage hydrogen combustion over BEVs made in coal-heavy regions. The EV revolution has become cultural. Tesla, Rivian, and Lucid promote a software-centric, minimalistic vision of transport. Toyota offers the counterpoint: mechanical, resilient, and diversified. This isn't just branding, it's geography. The world is not California. In rural Africa, 10-hour EV charging is a non-starter. In Arctic zones, lithium-ion loses 30 to 40% of its capacity in winter. In developing Asia, power outages are common, but hydrogen can be stored and used like diesel. Toyota sees hydrogen combustion not as a niche, but as a global solution for markets outside the first world metro bubble. It's also fighting to preserve the emotional bond with cars. Electric vehicles are smooth but soulless. Hydrogen combustion delivers sound, vibration, and torque, the elements that make driving visceral. Toyota is betting there will always be a market, however large or small, for that connection. While engineers build engines and politicians make promises, the ultimate vote is cast in showrooms, fleet orders, and balance sheets. The 2000s have been declared the decade of battery EVs, and by the numbers, it's hard to argue. In 2024, over 13 million EVs were sold globally. Tesla continued its dominance in the West. China's BYD exploded into global relevance with cheap, tech-packed EVs flooding into Southeast Asia and Europe. So where does that leave hydrogen? The truth is, hydrogen vehicle sales remain minuscule. Globally, under 60,000 hydrogen cars are on the road. Infrastructure is limited to a few hundred stations worldwide. Most are in California, Japan, Korea, and Germany. But those numbers obscure a deeper, more complex story. One that plays out in niches, fleets, and future-facing national agendas. Where hydrogen truly shines and where battery EVs struggle is in long-haul, high-load applications. Commercial trucks, Nikola, Hyundai, and Toyota are all deploying hydrogen-powered semi-trailers. Buses, Japan, China, and Germany have hydrogen bus fleets growing yearly. Trains, Alstom's Coradia iLint hydrogen train is now operating in Germany and Italy. Ships and mining, remote refueling needs, and long duty cycles make hydrogen ideal. In these markets, time is money and refueling speed, range, and payload preservation. No massive battery weight give hydrogen the edge. Toyota is positioning its hydrogen combustion engines for these exact sectors: utes, vans, light trucks, and agricultural equipment. These vehicles need to work hard and fast, two things lithium still struggles with. As of 2025, battery EVs are still cheaper to run, largely because electricity is more affordable than hydrogen and infrastructure is widespread. But that equation is changing. Lithium prices remain volatile and have risen dramatically since 2023. Battery recycling remains unresolved. Less than 10% of global battery waste is properly processed. Green hydrogen production costs are dropping with large-scale electrolysis projects in Australia, Chile, and the UAE targeting below $2 per kilogram by 2030. Toyota estimates that hydrogen combustion vehicles will reach purchase price parity with diesel by 2032 in fleet applications, faster in countries with carbon taxes or hydrogen subsidies. What's more, hydrogen combustion vehicles retain familiar service models. Mechanics can repair them, they don't need high voltage isolation, and infrastructure investment mirrors fuel station upgrades more than grid overhauls. This opens hydrogen up to developing markets that lack EV service ecosystems. The market is beginning to fracture along geographic and economic lines. Europe, full speed ahead on battery EVs, but hydrogen in trucks and buses is protected. USA, split. California pushes batteries. Midwestern states and Texas are hydrogen friendly. China, dominated by BEVs for cars but investing heavily in hydrogen for logistics and energy storage. Australia and Japan, betting big on hydrogen both for energy independence and transportation decarbonisation. Africa and South Asia, still early stage, but leaning toward flexible powertrains with low infrastructure requirements. In short, hydrogen won't beat batteries head-to-head in all markets, but it doesn't have to. It just has to win in enough. In the late 1990s, Toyota was mocked for the Prius. Journalists laughed at the concept of a hybrid. Car makers said it was pointless engineering. 20 years later, nearly every manufacturer makes hybrids, and Toyota owns the patent portfolio. The company is no stranger to swimming upstream. Now, with hydrogen combustion, Toyota is once again alone in the current, championing a solution that many have prematurely declared dead. But this time, the stakes are higher. The global automotive industry is at a crossroads. Entire economies are pivoting on decarbonisation strategies, infrastructure, energy markets, national security. It's all in flux. Toyota's approach isn't flashy, it's not meme-worthy, but it is resilient, inclusive, and globally scalable. By investing in hydrogen combustion for familiar mechanics and drivers, fuel cells for silent, efficient power and logistics, hybrids and plug-ins for transition markets, battery EVs where grid support and urban planning allow. Toyota is building a future-proof portfolio, not a silver bullet. And then there's the intangible, the feel. Hydrogen combustion isn't just about emissions, it's about retaining what drivers love: the revs, the growl, the connection. It offers a chance to decarbonize without sterilizing, to keep combustion culture alive just with cleaner fuel. For enthusiasts, that matters. For commercial fleets, that familiarity reduces training costs and service delays. For nations trying to decarbonize with existing infrastructure, it offers an upgrade, not a total teardown. Toyota understands this at a fundamental level. The company isn't chasing headlines, it's building continuity. By 2035, it's likely the automotive landscape will look dramatically different. Electric vehicles will dominate dense, wealthy cities. Hybrids will persist in transitional markets. Hydrogen fuel cells will power long-haul trucks, ships, and trains. And quietly, reliably, hydrogen combustion will be the unsung backbone of work vehicles, remote region transport, and performance purists. It may never be trendy, but it might just be essential. The story of Toyota's hydrogen combustion engine is not just a tale of engineering. It's a vision for a world where clean doesn't mean compromise, where innovation respects legacy, where progress comes not from wiping the slate, but from writing the next chapter better. In the race to redefine mobility, Toyota isn't trying to beat the future. It's trying to build one that works everywhere. And maybe, just maybe, they've lit the right spark.